John McEnroe just fired back. His target will shock you. Not Jannik Sinner himself. The family behind him. Live on BBC television, the legend accused the champion's inner circle of hiding a collapse that has been brewing all along, and nobody said it until now. Let that sink in for a second. Tennis royalty broke the code of silence on air. He exposed total chaos in Italy. Weeks of secret medical testing followed the Paris disaster. Then came one word that changed everything. Mental. Forget the heat excuse. This wound runs deeper. Rewind to Roland Garros. One game from victory, 2 sets up, 5-1 in the third. Suddenly, the world number one's body quit against a man ranked 56th. Everyone called it a fluke. Last night shattered the lie. Sure, Mochizuki got crushed at Wimbledon. Struff now waits in the quarterfinal. But count the warnings. January broke him in Melbourne. Paris followed in May. Last week, London nearly finished the job. Meanwhile, the camp was bleeding. A physio gone. Then the fitness coach vanished too. Even the head coach planned an exit mid-dynasty. Hit subscribe right now for the stories tennis media buries. Because the sealed file finally opens today. The sealed file begins with a microphone. John McEnroe sat in the BBC commentary booth on July 3rd, watching Jannik Sinner grind past Nuno Borges in straight sets, and decided the polite fiction had lasted long enough. What he said next traveled around the tennis world within hours. According to The American, there was a major freakout in Italy after the Roland Garros loss. He claimed the team ran extensive testing on Sinner for weeks afterward, and he suspected they were still searching for answers even as the champion marched through London. Then came his diagnosis, delivered with the bluntness only a 7-time major winner can afford. A lot of it, in his view, was mental, nerves. He mentioned the fair skin and the struggle in heat as contributing factors, but the core of his argument landed somewhere no physio can reach. The mind of the best player on the planet, he suggested, had cracked under a weight his camp never admitted existed. Understand why that accusation cuts so deep. Sinner employs one of the most expensive support structures in professional sport. Coaches, trainers, medical staff, advisors, and specialists surround him at every tournament. That professional family exists for a single purpose, which is to make sure the world number one never breaks down on the biggest stage. 3 times in 6 months, he broke down anyway. Each incident got explained away individually. Viewed together, they form a pattern that should have triggered alarm bells long before McEnroe grabbed a microphone. The first warning came in Melbourne back in January. Sinner walked onto court for a third-round match against Elliot Spizzirri, an unseeded American who should have posed no serious threat to a 2-time defending champion. The scorching Australian heat had other plans. Sinner could barely hobble between points. Movement, the foundation of his entire game, deserted him completely. He found himself a breakdown in the third set after splitting the first 2, visibly unable to compete. A heat rule enforced a break in play, and that pause arguably saved his tournament. McEnroe watched it unfold from the ESPN booth and made an accusation that stunned the broadcast. He told viewers that nobody wants to see this in the sport, and that it seemed like favoritism. His argument was simple. Had Spizzirri been the one collapsing, he doubted officials would have stopped the match. Sinner himself later admitted he got lucky that day. A champion surviving on luck and regulation loopholes is not a champion whose preparation is working. His camp treated Melbourne as an anomaly. The calendar would prove them catastrophically wrong. May arrived, and with it the French Open, the one major missing from Sinner's collection. Everything lined up perfectly. Carlos Alcaraz, the 2-time defending champion in Paris, was absent with a wrist injury. Sinner had just completed the greatest sustained stretch of Masters tennis in history, winning 5 consecutive Masters 1000 titles and becoming the youngest man ever to complete the career Golden Masters. Bookmakers installed him as the heaviest favorite at a major since Rafael Nadal in 2009, with a 76% chance of lifting the trophy. His second-round opponent was Juan Manuel Cerundolo, ranked 56th in the world. For nearly 2 sets and a half, the match went exactly as expected. Sinner led by 2 sets and 5-1 in the third. One game separated him from the finish line. Then his body staged a full mutiny. Cramps seized him in the 32-degree Paris heat. He called for a medical timeout that Jim Courier, commentating on the match, described as illegal under the rules. Cameras caught him telling his trainer he felt dizzy and nauseous. From that 5-1 lead, he lost 18 consecutive points at one stage and dropped 7 straight games. The final scoreline read 3-6, 2-6, 7-5, 6-1, 6-1 in favor of the Argentine. A 30-match winning streak died on court Philippe Chatrier that afternoon. So did a streak of 9 consecutive majors shared between Sinner and Alcaraz, stretching back to the start of 2024. He became the first reigning world number 1 to exit before the third round in Paris since Andre Agassi in the year 2000. Afterward, he told reporters he had hit a wall and had no energy left, describing a weakness he had never felt on a court before. Here is the detail that makes the collapse unforgivable rather than merely unfortunate. 12 months earlier, on that exact same court, Sinner had battled through a final lasting 5.5 hours. His engine was proven at the highest level. Yet in 2026, the Heat finished him in under 2 hours against a player he should have beaten in straight sets. Something changed between those two matches, and it was not his talent. What changed was the family around him. Trace the exodus and the picture darkens. The original physiotherapist and fitness coach departed in the aftermath of the doping case. The scandal in which Sinner was found to have been contaminated with a banned substance through a massage from his own staff member. Think about what that episode revealed. The people hired to protect his body nearly destroyed his career instead. Their replacements, Marco Panici and Ulisses Badio, arrived with glowing reputations from the Djokovic camp. That partnership disintegrated too, with both men leaving just before Wimbledon in 2025, forcing Sinner to hunt for a new athletic trainer and physiotherapist at the worst possible moment. 2 complete turnovers of the physical department in barely 2 years. The men responsible for hydration protocols, heat preparation, and recovery kept walking out the door, and each departure reset years of accumulated knowledge about how this specific athlete's body responds to stress. Agassi may not have been thinking about that revolving door when he delivered his verdict, but his words exposed its consequences perfectly. The 8-time major champion joined the TNT Sports panel at Roland Garros in early June and refused to soften anything. He drew a distinction that should haunt Sinner's camp. Being fit and being prepared, he explained, are different things entirely, and he pointed directly at a flaw in the preparation because, in his words, there is something you can do about that. He speculated the failure had to involve hydration in some form. He questioned whether Sinner's fluid intake was being managed properly. He recalled his own routine before playing best-of-5 matches in brutal Australian conditions, drinking 10 to 12 liters of water in the 24 hours beforehand alongside a strict nutritional plan built on a 4-to-1 ratio of protein to carbohydrates. His philosophy was blunt. Better to have it in you and not need it than to need it and not have it. Then he aimed higher up the chain. Teams today are scientific about everything, he noted, with staffs full of doctors and specialists. Repeating the same approach twice while expecting different results struck him as absurd, and he even suggested Sinner may need to bring somebody new in. Agassi was careful to clarify that he doubted neither the work ethic nor the fitness of the man himself. His indictment targeted the system, the staff, the professional family that watched Melbourne happen and then let Paris happen anyway. The coaching side of that family carries its own instability. Darren Cahill, the Australian tactician, credited with transforming Sinner into a champion, announced during the 2025 season that he intended to retire from coaching at the end of that year. What followed was a strange arrangement dressed up as a heartwarming story. Sinner and Cahill made a pact at Wimbledon, and after the Italian won the title, the decision over Cahill's future was placed in the player's hands. Cahill publicly declared himself a man of his word, saying his future belonged to Jannik. He stayed for 2026, but with sharply reduced travel and a lighter presence, leaving Simone Vagnozzi to shoulder the primary load with additional support. Picture the reality behind the sentiment. The most influential voice in the camp has one foot out the door, appearing only at selected events, while the athlete navigates the most turbulent stretch of his career. Champions need total stability at the top. Sinner has been operating with a part-time general. His own behavior since Paris tells you how deep the wound goes. He returned home to Monaco and took a week away from the practice court, undergoing what he called general health tests. All of them came back clean, which sounds reassuring until you realize what it actually means. A healthy body that keeps collapsing points the investigation somewhere else entirely, exactly where McEnroe pointed it. When Sinner resurfaced, he skipped his traditional grass warm-up in Halle and arrived at the All England club without a single competitive match on the surface. He claimed the choice was deliberate, arguing that a bad result in a warm-up event breeds doubt. Doubt again. His own vocabulary keeps betraying him. During the London heatwave, with southern England under a red weather warning, he practiced wearing a cooling vest, a visual admission that the heat problem remains unsolved. He revealed the team had changed his physical workload, running much longer sessions in the gym and on court without breaks. Yet when pressed for specifics, he refused, saying he preferred not to discuss exactly what was altered. His pre-tournament press conference lasted barely 9 minutes across 3 languages. He denied suffering heat stroke in Paris despite the visible evidence, insisted he carried no ghost from that defeat, and then quietly conceded the most chilling line of the entire saga. It could happen again, he admitted. You never know. His opening match at Wimbledon nearly proved him right. Miomir Kekmanovic, ranked 50th, dragged the defending champion into a 5-set fight on center court. Sinner confessed afterward to feeling very nervy walking down the stairs behind the court, and the tension showed in 10 unforced errors across the first 8 games, plus back-to-back double faults that gifted away the opening set. Since that scare, the recovery has looked genuine. Borges fell in straight sets despite 2 tiebreaks. Brooksby was dismissed efficiently. Last night, Japanese qualifier Shintaro Mochizuki threw 40 net approaches at him and still lost in 3, sending Sinner into a 5th consecutive Wimbledon quarterfinal. Jan-Lennard Struff, the 36-year-old German who just became the oldest man in the Open era to reach a first major quarterfinal, stands next. On form, Sinner should win comfortably. Melbourne and Paris both taught us how little that word guarantees. Now contrast the family that failed him with the family that built him, because this is where the story turns genuinely painful. Hans-Peter Sinner worked as a chef at a ski lodge in the Dolomites. Sieglinde worked there as a waitress. They raised their son in the mountain town of Sexten alongside his older brother Mark, adopted from Russia as a baby, who now works as a fire brigade instructor and avoids the spotlight entirely. Those parents never pushed him toward tennis, never attached their identity to his results, and let a 13-year-old boy leave home to chase a dream because he asked them to. Sinner has spoken about watching them in the stands, his mother visibly stressed while his father stays calm, calling it a good combination. Just this May in Madrid, he reflected on wanting more time with them, observing that when somebody is not there anymore, you regret it. The people who shared his blood gave him freedom and asked for nothing. The people who shared his payroll took everything and delivered a body that quits. The stakes at this Wimbledon expose how much has already been lost. Should Sinner fail to defend this title, the world number 1 will hold 0 Grand Slam trophies. Alcaraz owns the US Open and the Australian Open. Alexander Zverev owns Roland Garros, the title Sinner's collapse handed to the field. Beyond Struff waits a probable semi-final against Novak Djokovic, who just equaled Roger Federer's record of 105 match wins at the All England Club, and who beat Sinner in 5 sets in that Australian Open semi-final in January. A 39-year-old legend hunting his 25th major against a young king whose own coach called the problem mental. McEnroe fired back because somebody had to. The freakout in Italy was real. The testing was real. The exits, the collapses, and the silence were all real. Nobody inside that camp said a word until an outsider forced the conversation. And now, every match Sinner plays doubles as a referendum on the family behind him. If this breakdown gave you the full picture, the highlight packages never will, hit that subscribe button right now and switch on the notification bell, because the Struff quarterfinal drops in days, and our verdict will be ready the moment it ends. Drop your take in the comments below. Does the blame belong to Sinner's team, or does the mind of the champion carry this alone? Like the video if you made it this far, share it with the tennis fan who still thinks Paris was a fluke, and we will see you in the next one.